Welcome along, everybody. Thank you for your attendance today. Really appreciate it. This is our first webinar of the season, and we intend to roll out a webinar every sort of 6 to 8 weeks moving forward this year. If you've got any topics that you'd love us to talk about, then really happy to indulge you on that. So feel free to give me some suggestions. And we're really happy to help you guys out and come back with some topics you might be interested in. Been running quite a few private webinars for clients and stuff lately, so really happy to pick up on some of those topics as well. So today we're going to talk about setting your sights on a big 2019, and I guess one of the challenges that I often find at this time of the year is we often just, we sit back and reflect on what happened last year, and we're not necessarily happy about it, but quite often we don't do anything about it, or even worse, we just sort of carry on doing what we've really always been doing, and just carrying on irrespective of what happened last year. So I think this is a good time of year. I personally don't find the traditional New Year's Eve time a great time for planning. I think I'm a bit more in tune with the Asian sort of New Year, and I find this sort of February period where I've got back to work, got my feet under the desk, and now I'm just starting to settle down, and now's a great time to do that planning and thinking about where we're going to go. So today's webinar is all about driving that for you and helping you with that. And I want to take you through I guess a simple process that I used. Now, all good planning is based around this simple model, and it's about where are we now, and so it's about understanding that. And we're going to talk a bit about where you are now. I'm going to give you some tools and some processes where you can actually start to map a bit where we are now. We're going to talk a little bit about where you want to be in the future, because that's really important. And in many ways, that's probably the most important component of planning, is to think about the where, the aspirational part of where we want to be. And then the third part, once we've done that, is then to think about how we're going to get there. Now, too often people make the jump from the now to how. We've got a problem, let's fix it. The problem, let's fix it, without actually thinking about where do we want to go and what should the solution to that problem really be. And often some problems I come across with people in business when I'm working with them, when I'm working with clients, we're coming across stuff and their problems are really just irritations. And if we actually just focus on what we're doing, some of those problems will go away. We just need to put them into perspective, I guess, by having that where. So the where puts most things into perspective, and then we get so much more powerful sort of hows out of it. So the basic model for today is going to be still around this model, which is the basis of all good planning and problem-solving routines. All right, I've looked at about a bazillion strategic planning models and business planning models and everything else, and most of the problem-solving stuff still comes down to this: where are you now? Where would you like to be? What are the outcomes you're looking for? And then how are you going to get there? All right, so let's just hook into some of this stuff. So, as I said, this is a great time of the year to do some reflection, just to stop, prop, and reflect on what's been happening, what's happened in the last year, and what might we do about it. And I guess there's a couple of ways for doing that. And the first one is just to ask yourself some simple questions. And there's sort of 3 questions I would like to ask. So what went well? So it's always good to start with something positive and say, well, what went well last year? What were we happy with? What went well? What was good? And just jot down some points around that. Now, this is about getting stuff out of your head and onto a piece of paper. So make sure you take the time to write some stuff down. Yeah, so think it through. So what went well? So I want you to take just a minute now and write down 3 things that went well for you last year. What are 3 things that went really well for you last year and you're really happy with? Yeah, for me and my business, I had some great projects, so I was really happy with some of the projects. I brought on a heap of new clients down here around the Gold Coast, which was really good. So South East Queensland and Gold Coast, and I'm starting to get my life balance under control a bit, which is really good. So getting more balance, getting more business. And it's just working really well for me. So there are 3 things that I'm really happy with. Just in the Q&A area, just quickly write in there, just type in there, your top thing. You write in all 3 if you want to, but just type into the Q&A area. What was at least the thing that you were most happy with last year that went well for you? I won't give any names out, so you can keep it all commercial. So what were the things that went well for you? Yeah. So more clients on retainer. Excellent. Yeah. Consolidation, lots of changes. Yeah. So you did a lot of changes and got them going well. Yeah. New business. Yeah. Some good quality clients. Yeah. Business improvement work, including gross contribution. Excellent. Yeah. More diversification. New clients again. Have a great team around you. New clients, momentum in particular. Yeah. Yeah. Growing a new one as you. So lots of growth in those sort of things. Sorry, somebody's put one up in the chat. If I could get you to just go to the Q&A, that'd be fabulous. Yeah, and getting in there. So running some leadership development programs. Yeah, so if I can get to respond in the Q&A area rather than the chat area, that'd be just really good. I don't have to sort of try and navigate two screens. Yeah. Somebody's turning 60 and very happy about that. I'm not far away from it. I'm not so happy about that, I've got to be honest. That's good. I'll be pleased when I get there, but I'm not so pleased I got there, if you know what I mean. Yeah, buying a razor. Yeah, learn more about that. So, yeah, it's cool. All right then. So that's great. All right. So that's the stuff that went well in your business. Okay. So that's the first question I asked. Next question I'll ask is, what could have been better? So what could I have done that would have been better? Yeah. So again, I want you to just think about it and type in, think of some answers. So 3 things that could have been better last year that you could have been better and you would have been happier with. All right. So just have a think about those for a minute. Write them down on your list. Yeah. Right. This one here. Yeah. Yeah. It is a privilege. Exactly. Yep. So yeah. So one of the other things that went well was a 20-year life plan with their partner, which was fantastic. Okay, so now just flick in here. Yeah, you got the process going. So yeah, what do we got here? So things that could have been better. Focus more on your business than working in it. Yeah, so that's a common one. Time management. Yeah, just taking on too much. So it's about priorities, isn't it? Getting your priorities right, that sort of stuff. What's we got here? Less time on admin matters, more time on improving capability. Excellent. Yeah. Yeah, staying disciplined and saying no to those things I've decided not to do. Harder than it sounds, but yeah, it is. It's about focus and discipline. Consistency in sales activity. Time management again. Yeah. Content creation, being really consistent in our content creation. Not completing the tough jobs. Yep. Yep. Okay, so that's all good. What else we got here? More systematized, more proactive pipeline development. Build some thought leadership stuff. So just not happy with not being as systemized and doing as the things that we need to do. Oh, so that's all good. More delegation, yeah, common one. So just been working with a client this week and been talking a lot about delegation and that sort of stuff. And sometimes it's not as simple as just giving jobs to people. You've got to make sure that you've got the structures in place and that we do that well. We ran a webinar just on that the other day and how to delegate well with a client. Okay, so what went well? What could have been better? And the last question then is, what do we need to change? So think about it. So what needs to change as a result? Things could have been better, but sometimes they're factors outside of your control. But what are the things within your realm of control that you'd like to change? So what are the things you need to change? Because this is where the real action comes in. What do we need to change? What do we really need to work on? Again, just throw them up into the in the Q&A box whenever you're ready. Three things you'd like to change based on last year. Yep. Some more sales activity. Yep. Stop looking for opportunities. Yeah. So here, build a sales pipeline. Really important that we get that pipeline going and start to build that pipeline. Yeah. As we go here. yeah, changing up to larger clients. So changing our target market and moving into, or probably focusing more on our target market rather than just taking the business that comes along. Yeah. Yeah, more streamlined processes and decreasing the amount of paper in the office, really important, and it actually going to make a really big thing in business. We've got some more streamlined administration, good. But in the middle of pulling the plan together, so that's all good. Less distractions, yeah. More pro bono, more rigor, yeah. So a bit more rigor, a bit more structure on what we do, and then working on some new markets. Yeah, fantastic. All right. All really good, guys. So if you think about it there, we've done a quick review of the year. What went well, what didn't go so well, and what do we need to change? Got here some more planned stuff, more targeted marketing, more targeted sales, I'm assuming. Okay. So, we start to think about those things, and we can then start to go, okay, so what do we really need to change? Now, the other thing to think about is what's stopping us from moving ahead. And I guess this understanding of barriers is really important, because pushing through barriers can be really important, but also overcoming some of the things that are stopping us moving ahead. And my colleague James Atkins, who's actually on the webinar tonight, at a recent training program I went to with James, came up with this really, really powerful model that I just love. And so apologies for those of you who've seen it before, but I'm going to take you through it again. Thanks again, James, for introducing me to this. It's just fantastic. I've been using it heaps. So it's a technique called what are the shackles and what are your shields? And the way I get people to think about this is to think about an area that you'd like to improve in. Maybe it's your role at the company, or maybe it's the business or something else. And I'll get you to do some examples in a minute. And then your shackles are the things that are holding you back from achieving your full potential. So what's holding you back? So what's stopping you from moving forward? All right. And now I find that people come up with all sorts of answers, and it's really interesting that it relates to another tool that I probably don't, that sits in the background of lots of things that we do. But I find that lots of people come up with stuff that is out of their control or is about somebody else. And we call this locus of control. And so if you look at this character here, he's, where's the control? He's having some trouble with the economy, with the banks, with competition, with customers. Where was the control lie for this guy? Is it internal or external to him? Is it internal to him or external? Just type it into the Q&A. Where do you think it is? Internal or external? Yep, so we've got a mixture here. We've got some internals, some externals. Yeah, so he's basically controlled externally, right? So all these other factors are holding him down, and I often listen to people when they talk, and if their self-talk is all around, the banks are doing this to me, and the competitors are doing that to me, and all this other stuff, then their control tends to be external. Their language tends to be very negative, and they tend not to take a lot of responsibility for what they do. So it's the same with this shackles and shield exercise. So if you are not prepared to take control and have that internal thing, yeah, exactly. Estelle, he is letting it happen. Yeah. So the control is external. He's feeling that he has to let it happen. Yeah. So what I want you to think about is when you come up with some answers to these questions, I want you to not project externally. I want you to think internally. And I think about what are the things that we can control and we can change. So the first sort of question you can ask is, so what's holding your business back from achieving its full potential? And there are a couple of things here you can sit back and just think it through and go, okay, what is really holding my business back? So what's the stuff that's really holding it back? Now, if you're a one-person business, a one-man band or whatever, then your business and yourself are often synonymous. So maybe this next question is applicable to more of us. Which is what is holding you back from achieving your full potential. So I'd like you to think about that for a minute. And, what is it that's really holding you back from achieving your full potential? So what's stopping you from getting to where you want to go? Have a think about it for a second or two, and then and on top on the stuff that's right at the top of your head is the right stuff, and then type it into the Q&A area. But, what's holding you back? What's holding you back? So internally, What is it within you that's holding you back? Yeah. And we'll talk about what you might want to do with it in a minute, but what's holding you back? It's interesting, ask some people who are close to you, people who know you well, and get their feedback on what your shackles might be. It's really interesting to see what their answers are. I found, for me, there was a lot of overwhelming consensus around what was holding me back, and for most people thought that what was holding me back was the fact that I'm a one-man band, and that I was part of a larger organisation with some leverage. Then I would probably that would be stopping me from moving forward. Yeah. So finances, Cyclone Marcus knocked you around, The discipline to allocate times in the day allow me to improve my business, eliminate the times that grab my attention. Yeah, exactly. Still not proven. So it's about that focus on the things that matter, isn't it? Yeah, we talked about that earlier. It's a discipline and focus. Yeah, mentally bogged down. Yeah, so you've got too much stuff in your head to actually think through. So your brain's full a lot of the time. Yeah, I get that. Yeah, so it's a really honest thing. So one-man band, the courage to pursue the bigger, harder sales, and the courage to be confident that I can deliver. Yeah. So that's the stuff that's holding you back. Sometimes it's a fear, sometimes it's just an overwhelming thing that you find it really difficult. Yeah, experience in a new market. So sometimes we don't feel confident to move ahead in that market and do that sort of stuff. Yeah. Remember to enjoy the journey. Yeah, sometimes we get all caught up in the detail and forget where we're going. Yeah. 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 Yes, it is a bit of a dumb fear. Yeah, I'm not going to put that comment up. All right. So that's all good. So that's, you just think about it for a second. So what's really holding you back from achieving your full potential? Yeah. And I think it's an interesting one when you really start to apply stuff to it. And I found it certainly enlightening. Some stuff I've been asking a number of my clients around, what's really holding us back, what's getting in the way, and what's stopping us from moving ahead. And if we're honest with ourselves, we come up with some stuff that's really quite powerful. So the second part of this exercise then is to think about the shields, right? So, but our shackles, that's from holding us back. But what are you hiding behind that's enabling that to happen? Yeah, that's what, and I find and say, well, what's enabling that? So what's enabling the shackles to stay in place? Yeah, and again, for me, people said, they often hide behind my lifestyle. Right, so one of the reasons I don't want to grow my business beyond a certain level is because that I'm sort of using my lifestyle as an example for that, and they probably don't think they're 100% right. So it's about saying, well, how do I get the balance between both, and what do I need to do? But I certainly hide behind that. So what's the shackle for you guys? So what's the shackle that is enabling you to? What's the shield that is enabling those shackles to stay in place? What are you hiding behind? Yeah, and if it's fear, what are you hiding behind that's enabling you? Might be experience in the marketplace was one. So what's the shield that you're hiding behind that will stop you from addressing that shackle issue and going, oh well, I can't fix that because of this. That's basically what we're looking for. Yeah. The shield can sometimes be a positive that increases life balance. Yeah, it can be. It can be, but often it's something that we hide behind, and it's quite often to have both of it. Yeah, well, it's not so much about excuses. Really, it's often about just identifying what it is, because often we hide behind things and say, oh well, we can't do this because of that. It's those sorts of things we're thinking about. Yeah. So any more examples of shields? What's some of the stuff that you guys are thinking about with your shields? Yeah, self-doubt, confidence. Yeah, it's a good one. Yeah. Yeah, so that's a great one. So confidence in what you're doing now. So it's really hard to step out of the square and do something different, isn't it? Into an area where you don't feel as confident. Yeah. So you go, okay, I'll just stay here. I'm really good at that, and you start to build some business in that, even though you think so. Yeah. Yeah. So health levels, concerned about health levels and that sort of stuff. You know, when stress, your cholesterol goes up. Yeah, I get that. But you know, does growth have to be stressful? Probably not. You know. So again, you know, you get some fear, lack of confidence, self-doubt, all those sorts of things. And so they're the common ones that sort of drop in there that we hide behind. All right. So I'll keep pushing on, but think about those shackles and shields. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So deliver at 100% rather than deliver well and also look for additional work. Yeah. 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 Exactly. All right. So that was a shackles and shields exercise, and I think that's particularly useful when you're just thinking about it. So if we think about our now analysis, the really quick and dirty now analysis is what went well, what didn't go so well, what do we need to change, and then what's holding us back? What are those things that are holding us back, and what do we need to do to address those and start thinking about those? So they're the sort of things that I think of very quickly when we're thinking about them now. You can also, sit down and do a review of your business and say, this is where we're up to with customers and clients and my marketing and lots of stuff and review things. If you'd like, there's a business diagnostic that's on my website, and we'll put a link into it in the show notes when we send them out. But you can go to the diagnostic and very simply fill out 25 questions, and it'll give you a bit of feedback on your business about where the strengths and weaknesses are and some of the things that you probably need to focus on. It takes about 5 minutes to fill it out. So we'll put that link in there. So you can do a quick diagnostic to help you out and as well. So getting into the now is all good, but we can spend a lot of time navel-gazing and worrying about things. I think we're better off to start thinking about where we want to go. And this is about being aspirational and thinking about some aspirational goals and where we're going to head with this and what are we going to do with it and that sort of stuff and what's our strategy going to be. And this is where the exciting stuff really happens. It's nice to sit back and think about where we are now, but often we spend too much time beating ourselves up as well. So we think about our aspirational goals and where we're heading. The place I like to start with is a strategic plan. So when I build a strategic plan for a business, we're looking 3 to 5 years out. One of the things we do, we look at strategic imperatives, which are the key actions that we need to take. Almost the strategies, the long-term actions that we need to take. We'll have a whole set of things under those. We also need to think about our objectives and our targets. And we use a methodology called OKR, so objective, key results, is that. And what it really does is actually help you cascade down from here's our objectives to here's our key results to here's some of the measures and targets we're going to put in place to help us grow this business, and so we know we're on track. So I think it's a great place to start is if you have a strategic plan, and of course you all have one. If you don't, give me a call and we can sort one out for you pretty quickly. I've got an online course you can do if you want to, or we can. I'm happy to talk to you about how we work through that as part of the coaching program. But you need to have that 3 to 5 year long-term plan to see where you're going and where you want to go and what you want to do. From then we can then drill down into our sort of 12-month plan that we're talking about now, a quick plan for the year. But I think you need to have that longer-term perspective. And starting with that sort of strategic stuff is where we need to go. So I'm going to assume that you've got some objectives and some targets, and you know where you're heading. If not, then just start simply and say, well, what are some financial targets I want to hit? That's the easiest one to say. My sales last year were X, and my sales going forward in the next year I'd like to be X plus 20%, and set it as an aspirational target. So again. I'm a big fan of saying, what would you like it to be, as opposed to what do you think you're going to get? I think they're two very different questions. So when you're thinking about aspirational targets, be aspirational. This is what I'd like to get, because then you can sit down and map some strategies and plans for how I'm going to get that aspirational target. I find business is not a linear continuation. They've been having big step improvements and exponential growth. That can come along from focusing on aspirational targets and that sort of stuff. So we'll do that, and then we start to think about, we looked at the big picture. So I'm assuming that you've got some strategy and that you've set some objectives and stuff. And I'll think, what would you like to achieve in 2019? So what's the stuff that you'd really like to achieve, and what do you want to focus on? Yep. And again, just some simple elements there will really help. You know, maybe it's a simple financial target. Maybe it's 3 or 4 things. So often it's an easy thing to say, well, what are 3 or 4 things that I'd like to achieve in the next year? And it might be sales of such. It might be to you know, grow my market share. You know, get more clients on the Gold Coast, you know, whatever it happens to be, have a bit of life balance, whatever it might be. So think about what you'd like to achieve in 2019. So just take a couple of seconds and write those down. I won't get you to type them up into the Q&A area, but just stop for a second and say, geez, what's 3 things I'd really like to achieve in 2019? You can type them up in the Q&A area if you want to, but just stop and have a think. All right, so think it through. What are things you'd like to achieve? Anybody's got something really exciting they'd like to share with us? If you do, just whack it into the Q&A box. But yeah, just write it down. 3 things you'd like to achieve in 2019. Things that you can knock over in the next 12 months, and you'll feel a real sense of achievement from it. So that aspirational target. All right. So, all right, we'll push on. So, once you've thought about what you'd like to achieve, so you've set some goals, you've set some objectives, and you've really thought through what you'd like to achieve in the next year. And there's if you go to my website, there's also a lot more videos on how to set some goals and stuff. If you look back to these sort of planning webinars we've done at different times, we've focused on different areas at different times. So you'll find some different techniques for doing some of this stuff just by going back and having a look at the history. But start to set some clear goals and some clear things that you can really work towards. All right, and then it's a matter of thinking around and saying, well, what are my big rocks? All right, and for those of you who've done this before, but the big rocks come from Stephen Covey's book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, and where he talks about, you know, if you've got some sand, some gravel, some big rocks, and some water to put into a container, what do you put in first? Well, you need to put the big rocks in first, otherwise nothing else will fit. Yeah, and so I like to use this big rock analogy. So what are your big rocks for 2019? So the way I do that is just quite simply to go, I want you to reflect on where you are now. Just go back and look over your notes you've made on what are the changes we need to make, what are shackles and shields and all that sort of stuff, and then define those 3 or 4 big rocks. Yeah. I'll come back to your question in a second, Douglas. So once we've done that, define, you know, reflect on the now, and then define your 3 or 4 big rocks. All right. So big rocks for me are things that are large in scope and that normally are linked to your objectives and sit into some typical areas like marketing, sales, operations, and people. And so examples are, you know, big rocks could be to increase our sales into the, you know, whatever sector you're in, the healthcare sector. You know, improve our teamwork, increase our profile in South East Queensland, or build more retainer retail sales. You know, whatever they happen to be. Describe them, put them out in a sentence. So a nice sentence that starts with a doing word. So, you know, is a good idea. And then describe each rock in a bit of detail. So then write a little story about it. So, you know, what do you really mean by increase our profile in South East Queensland? Now, what do you really mean by that? So write that down. Okay. And then it's really good if you can then add some specific targets to each big rock. And so, you know, your targets could be increasing our sales in a certain sector. Could be, percentage of sales in the healthcare sector over the next year, a percentage of new business that's from the healthcare sector. And they could be some of the targets you might think in. So think of, you know, don't have to have many targets, just have 1 for each big rock or 1 or 2 for each big rock. But just think about those big rocks for 2019. All right, so I've got a question here. Douglas is saying, so what if you're starting afresh? Yeah. So in terms of starting afresh, Douglas, you know, I'd still work through the process. The now is fairly easy because so you don't have any track record to worry about, but you might reflect on where you are now in terms of your previous experience. You know, maybe you've got a little bit of business going, some other things, or some, those sorts of things. So you might just think about where I now take a quick stock take of where you are at the moment. What are your skills? What are your networks like? Some of those sorts of things, and write those down. And then I would then still start with the next process and go, right, where do I need to be? What would I like to achieve? What's something reasonable I would like to have achieved by the end of 2019? Yeah, and focus on that. Yeah, and then think about your big rocks and just use those areas. If you're starting out, just use those areas. What can I do in the marketing area? What am I doing in the sales area? What am I doing in terms of operations? And what am I going to do in terms of people? Now, if you're a one-man band, the people stuff could be around what personal development and training you're going to do yourself. But if you've got a small team or a big team, it's about thinking about what are we going to do with those teams as well. All right, so does the big rocks make sense? And if you had to come up with one big rock, what would it be? So what would your first big rock be? You can type that into the Q&A area. So what's the first big rock you need to nail for 2019? Doug, if I didn't answer your question, mate, just come back to me. Yep. So gross sales revenue. Yeah. So So three clients, greater than 50K each. Yeah. Increased productivity. There you go. Yeah. Have the guts to sack a client. It's probably not a big rock, John. It's just probably something you need to do. I don't think it's a major strategy that you want to focus on for the whole year, but it's probably something that you need to do. Everything. Yeah. So leverage some existing IP. Yeah. Yeah. Build a social media presence. Good. All right. So you get the hang of it. Yeah. 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 Some more team building. Build a better team. All that sort of stuff. Yeah. All right. Cool. So you can see what I want you to do is just brainstorm those big rocks. And people say, well, what am I doing here? Well, you're actually using your intuition to come up with it. Yeah. There you go. Another big rock. Marketing our new PA system to existing and new clientele. Exactly. So yeah, fantastic. Then you can sit down and say, all right, that's the big rock. They're the 3 or 4 things we must do in the next year. Doesn't mean there's a whole lot of other things you don't do, but these are things you really must focus on and things you really must do. The next step of the process is then to go for each big rock, define the key strategies. What are the big actions required to achieve your big rock? Yeah, and then what might they be? Yeah, so. Your key strategies in marketing could be develop a social media program. Yeah. In your team, it could be develop a workforce plan, or develop training needs analysis, or develop a training plan for key employees. Could be part of it. So that could be your strategy. Yeah. So your strategies are, again, big actions required, and often the one big rock. If it's to build a profile in a particular area or improve your marketing in some area, then then there may be 3 or 4 things you need to do. You might need to do some networking. You need to go and do some one-on-one stuff. And you need to go and do some broadcast activities, which could be update our website and do some other things. So you'll end up with some key strategies. Under those strategies, you might have a series of actions. You might have 3 or 4 actions under each of those to address each strategy. We then need to decide who's going to do them and when. Right? One-man band, it's mainly you, but if you're in a team, you need to decide who. Now, with the who is not who is going to be, who has to do the job, it's who's going to be responsible for ensuring the job gets done. Yeah. So that person doesn't have to do all the work. They're just responsible for making sure that everybody else gets their job done. And then the when, make sure we pick some reasonable time frames. The thing I find craziest is people just set sort of random dates on things and go, yeah, we'll have that done in a month's time, knowing that they're away on holidays for 2 weeks, and they've got a major client coming to see them and you've got no time. So set some realistic time frames, but then hold yourself to those realistic time frames. Yeah. So do those sort of things, and then think about what additional resources are required to execute that strategy, yeah, or that strategy of that big rock, you know. Yeah, and I'm talking here about additional resources in terms of we need additional specialised plant, equipment, do we need extra people, contractors, do we need capital, like, you know, cash? What do we need to do to make this happen? You know, do we need a good business coach to drive it and help us drive it and make it happen? You know, I think you should all put that on your list. And if you run into a good business coach, you want to let me know. So, you know, so develop some strategies and some actions. So any questions around that big rock and strategy and action process? I'm going to show you how we pull it all together into a plan in a second. But, you know, so for each big rock, you just need to break it down. So any questions in that space? Okay, so how are we going so far then? Are we making sense? Does this all make sense? Just give me a yeah, Russ, it does, or not a chance. I'm still in the dark here. Yep. Good. Fantastic. Absolutely, that's what I want to hear. Okay, great. All right, good stuff. All right, good. Making sense? Fantastic. All right, thanks very much, guys. So that's all good. So then we pull this plan together. So we've done all this great thinking. We just need to pull it together into a plan. And we've got a template here, and I'll talk to you how we might get this template at the end of the webinar if you're interested. And it's called my AOP plan. AOP stands for an annual operating plan. And the AOP basically, if you think about it, you know, it's broken up into a couple of key areas. But you know, if we think about this first area that up in the top left-hand column here, which was the key issues, where would you think we'd get those from? Where would those key issues come from? Yep, the now. So that a now analysis we did is we're going to find some of these key issues. So you're going to look at your key issues and you're going to distill them down and say, okay, yeah, all right, yeah, the now, the shackles and shields, all that sort of stuff. Yeah, yeah. Your objectives, probably not. Their probably objectives are going to be sort of more in this where area. Yeah, so sit down and distill and have a look through your key issues. Have a look at the business diagnostic you might do on the website, from the website, and just have a look through that and say, okay, it's pinpointed a couple of areas we need to work on, and plug those in. So we've got that now. The where, fairly obvious where that comes from. It's, you know, it's all that stuff around your objectives and where we need to, you know, what we said we're going to do and those targets we set ourselves, and, you know, what are the three things I want to achieve in 2019. I'd be plugging those in here. You know, plug those 3 or 4 things in there. Now, I haven't kept a lot of room for that sort of stuff because this is, as I said, I normally would cascade this from a strategic plan. So a lot of the detailed where stuff, vision, mission, values, you know, all that sort of stuff, and the objectives and stuff will sit up in that strategic plan. Just want to put the stuff in here that's relevant for this 2019 period. Okay, and then we go, righto, we go to the next area we fill out. Then there's this big rocks area, and we just went through that. So, yeah, the big rocks, put in a description of each big rock, and then what are some of the key measures we're going to have to put in place to let us know whether we're achieving that big rock. And again, I use sort of standard areas from the big rocks in most cases. I will vary it occasionally, but I'll put those standard areas in. So I'll come back to that question. So we'll do, you know, I tend to use those 4 areas: marketing, sales, operations, people are probably the main ones. But occasionally, you know, you'll have another one which could be about a merger or an acquisition or some sort of financial deal, you know, refinancing or something. So, you know, you might swap them around. You may not have a sales objective and everything else. I encourage you to have one, but you may not. A question here about this is a whole year plan. Any sense in doing it for a 3-month time period? Yeah, I'm not actually going to talk about it today, but I actually do cascade this down to a 90-day plan. So I've got a template for that as well. I'm happy to share that with you. And there's a heap of stuff on my website. There's videos and lots of stuff about the 90-day plan. So yeah, we'll cascade down. If you think about it, we cascade from that sort of 3 to 5 year thing down to a 12-month plan, and then down to a 3-month plan. What are we going to really focus on in the next 90 days? And that's where the rubber really hits the road. All right, so we've mapped out our big rocks. In this template here, the blue areas, we just copy that blue area down. So this blue area at the top here just drops down into that in that blue area at the bottom. So we're just reproducing that, and then we map out here. What are the 3 or 4, the 2 or 3 strategies we're going to put in place here to actually execute on that big rock? And then for each of those strategies, what are the actions we're going to have to take, and break them down? Now, some people just go, I don't really need to have strategies. I've just got big rocks and actions. That's okay. I don't mind. This is a template, and I'm really happy for you guys to modify it for something that works for you and works for you and your business. Really important stuff is who's going to be responsible, when's it going to get done by, and what sort of resources, people, capital do we need to make it happen. Okay, so I hope that makes a little bit of sense, and therefore we end up with this really cool looking plan. So any questions about how you build a plan? Does that make sense to you? Any challenges with the layout? No. Yeah, just update, and I'm about to send in an update mine, Justin, as well. So that's one of the reasons I do this webinar. It gets me motivated to get out and just update my own plans and get on top of stuff. Yep, and I'll go back as part of that process. I'll go back and look at my strategic plan, the 3 to 5 year plan. Where are we on track? Does it need any changes? And then I'll drop straight into this annual operating plan. I'll map out a good annual operating plan. I'll quite often do a 90-day plan, or sometimes I'll even break out a separate. I'll break it down to a separate 1-page plan for each of those areas. I'll often break it down to a separate sales plan, and often a separate marketing plan and a people plan. So I tend to break those things down because I just find it gives me a little more clarity if I go a little bit deeper. All right, so that's the basic planning process. Where are we now? Where are we going to be in the future? And then how are we going to get there? The how is just really, what are the 3 or 4 things we need to focus on? What must we focus on if we achieve our longer term objectives? And then of those 3 or 4 things, what are the natural things? And I find if you just think about it, the action plans will come to you. We've got more complicated methodologies on my website. So if they're more complex issues, please go and look at our problem-solving routines. We use mind mapping and force field analysis and stuff to help you develop a plan. Please go and look at those and use those. But often, I find some of the best plans are stuff that comes straight off the top of your head, and you just sort of map it out and you get it out in a hurry. I guess that's one thing. This shouldn't take a long time. All right, so this shouldn't be a process that takes you days and days and days and days. Yeah, this should be something you can build out your business in half hour to an hour. Now, sometimes you might need to go back and do some more detailed thought on things, but really it's pushing through, and we should be able to get a fair bit of this done with concentrated effort, certainly in an hour or 2. I tend to just play on that pretty quickly, and then I'm prepared to update them and change them as I sit back and reflect on them. So get all your good ideas down first. All right. The other thing we said we'd talk about tonight was just managing, engaging your team and getting some buy-in. So from some of you with bigger teams, it's really important that you get some buy-in from them rather than just saying, here's the plan, off you go. So here's some sort of tips for thinking those things through. I like to often sit down and get the owners and all the senior management team to sort of set the where and the big rocks. And then we engage the team to build the strategies and the actions. Yeah. So I'm not that keen for non-owners in the business to be setting the direction for where the business is going to go necessarily. I believe that's a prerogative of the owners. It's their business. It's their mortgage, their house's mortgage often to keep the business on the line, and you should be having the ultimate say in where you want to take the business and what you want to do it. You might get some input from your team, but I really like to make sure that we're really quite clear on that, and the owners are really clear on where they want to take this business. And often then, you know, the team can actually be engaged then to develop some of the big rocks even, but particularly to build the strategies and actions. So this is where we're heading. These are the 3 or 4 things we need to focus on, and what are the strategies and actions we need to take in order to make those happen. Second thing you do is get the team's input into the now. So you can do some surveys, you can have some feedback. If you have a small team, you can just talk to them. You know, where are we now? So I've just started some work with a new client, and I'm talking to their team now about tell me about the business and what do you see as the strengths and weaknesses of this business, and what are some of the things we need to change, and what are some of the things we work on, and what do you like about working here, and all that sort of stuff. And so I get a real feel for the client's business, and often people will tell me things that they won't tell others. All right, you can run a planning day to build your AOP. So you can actually get your team together and you can actually run a full planning day or a half day or whatever to build your AOP. And then the last thing is to set up some project teams for execution of the strategy. So one of your great ways to engage the team is to get them involved in the planning, get them doing some good stuff, build the strategies and actions, and then set up some target teams or some project teams to go out and start to execute the key strategies and say, right, I want you guys to go and work on this. And you might even take them offline if it's a big project. Take them offline, or you say, right, I'm happy to give you some time to go and do this. All right, so they're the sort of things that I am. Yep. I'm sorry, so just explain to me which questions you're talking about. The questions that I ask the team members, that's probably what I'm thinking. Yeah. Yeah, I do. So, they're not very sophisticated, but I'm happy to give you I'm happy to send you a copy of those. Not a problem at all. They're really quite simple. It's some of the questions we've done tonight. You know, what's going well? What's not going well? What would you change? What do you see as the strengths and weaknesses of this business? Those sorts of things. Yeah, happy to share those with you. So if there's some of my tips for this, but what's been working for you, and either for you and or your clients, what's been working for you in terms of getting teams engaged? Is there anything? Is there anything that you'd add to the list? What things can you see that will help with getting some engagement here? Yeah, apart from getting their input into maybe it's a different way of getting their input into the process. Project teams, definitely project teams. The project teams work well. Yeah. Yeah, so that's getting them involved in the planning. Yeah, that common goal and vision. Yeah. We did talk about how I like to make sure that the owners are really clear on the vision that they want before we get the team engaging in that. Yep. So yeah, weekly catch-ups, engagement projects. Yeah, weekly coffee discussions out of the office. Yeah, get them to do the GPS diagnostic. So that's that diagnostic I talked about. Get them to do and use it to update it and see how we're going. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so you put your project team leaders into a project leaders group, and then have some mutual accountability. Good stuff. Get them holding each other accountable for the projects. I like it. That's really good. So as well as the project teams having some accountability, you actually get the project team leaders to report back to other project teams, so a little bit of competition, I guess, in some ways, to get things going. Yeah, I like it. Okay, so that's great, guys. So all right, so we're running out of time, so we'll just sort of push on. So I guess pulling it all together is really about getting getting your one-page plan sorted. Where are we now? Where do we want to go in the future? And then how we're going to get there. And my methodology is really simple. Ask yourself some questions, do a bit of review of the now, spend a bit more time mapping out exactly where you want to go and where you'd like to be in the future, but set some clear objectives on that. What do we want to achieve in the next year? What are 3 or 4 things we want to tick off the list and make sure we get done? And they're like outcomes you're looking for. And then think about, if they're the outcomes we want, what are the 3 or 4 big rocks that we need to put in place if we want to achieve that outcome? 3 or 4 big rocks. Break it down then to strategies, actions, and and their strategies and actions, and then accountability pieces, and just get that annual operating plan set and cement. You can then cascade it down to 90 days if you want. And we've got some great stuff on the website around building 90-day plans. All right, and I'll add it into the webinar area, so when you'll get sent a link to this recording, and in it we'll put the resources, a copy of the slides, and that sort of stuff, and different things, and then we'll also put a link to that video on 90-day plans in there as well. Okay, so that's really good. So just I guess the next steps moving forward here, and I actually want to get a little bit of feedback from you. So I'm not asking for a commitment here. Thanks, Estelle. What I've been toying with is I guess some ways of giving some additional support. So every year I have people come back to me and say, oh, this has been really good. Really like to do a plan, and we end up doing bits and pieces of it. But I thought I would just get your feedback. So no, I'm not asking for a commitment here to do anything. More a little bit of a survey poll on the sort of service or product that you think would be useful to you in moving forward. So I don't want to put the time and energy into developing some stuff if people really aren't interested in it. And so the sort of three options I've really got here are, we could do a webinar program. So we could actually do a webinar program where we had like a 2-hour webinar. Instead of me just talking about stuff, we actually work you through the process. So you actually sit down, we'll send you the worksheets and stuff, and we'd get you to work it out. We'd open up the microphones because there'd only be a handful of you. We'd get people sharing ideas and concepts and that sort of stuff. I normally find it's best if we have that sort of webinar process and we follow it up with an individual coaching call. So I'd follow up with a call, say, all right, what's your plan look like? Let's talk you through your plan and that sort of stuff. So that, depending on whether we do the coaching call or not, it's about $500 plus GST. Another option is we just do an online course. So I could build an online training course for you that would walk you through the process of building this 2019 plan. We could do that as well. Cost for that's about $200. Again, we can also add in some individual coaching and stuff like that if you really wanted to. And then my other option is a live event. Given half of you are from Darwin, that's probably not going to work for you. But I was thinking about, I could always do a live event on the Gold Coast or Brisbane even for a day. One-day event, work you through a really detailed process. So we'd spend a lot more time on things like getting stuck into marketing plans and that sort of stuff, which we could do in a day, as well as just helping you through come up with that one-page plan. Again, the cost, I guess, would depend on numbers and venues and stuff, but about $500. So, of course, the fourth option is you can just engage me to work with you, and we can start putting all the stuff in place. But I'm just be interested in some feedback in the question and answer area, but around this, and if you just put in there, I'd prefer option 1 or 2 or 3 or 4. I don't want to hold you to it. I won't even take down who put up what or where, but it'll just give me a bit of a straw poll on which one. I suppose I could have actually done a proper poll on this, couldn't I? I didn't think about that. I could have done a poll for you, but just really quickly, have a think about it, and if any of those options appeal to you, just plug in the options that probably you would think would be best. For others that don't, then just say no thanks or something. None of them work. Okay. Thank you. Yeah, okay, so so some face-to-face stuff. Yeah, so that's a 3. So a live event would work. Got some option 1s. Yeah, so webinars, so the webinars are working well. 1 and 1 and 1. Yeah. Okay. Yep. Cool. So somebody, very good. Yeah, live event could be good. Yeah, the webinar style works well. Yeah, good. Yeah. Yeah, so webinars seem to, the option 1 seems to be, option 1 or option 3 seem to be the most popular. Yeah, I guess we could always combine them. All right. That's good. Yeah. Yeah, great. Okay. Sorry, there's one comment here, so let's go back to. All right. Someone made a comment about option 1 or 3, not an option tuning to both, preferably 3. Saying you need a bit of hand with marketing and stuff. You've come in as anonymous to me, so if you want to follow up with that, just please let me know. But you just come in as, yeah. Okay. Perfect. So yeah, so option 1 would be due to my location. Yeah, that's fine. So we can run those. So that's good. So okay. So interesting blend of options 1 and 3 there. Okay, guys, I really appreciate your feedback on that. It's interesting because I've normally gone with sort of option 2 stuff in the past, and some people really like it and other people have it. So that's really good. Okay, thanks. Yeah, we could do 1 and 2 blended together. No trouble to do a webinar and then with an online course in the background. Yeah, that's certainly doable. Yeah. That's right. Thanks, Bill. He was coming in as anonymous attendee. Cool. Fantastic stuff. All right, thank you very much. Now, I want to try something a little bit different. We tried this a little while ago to get hold of a template, and it was a bit of fun to generate a bit of interest on LinkedIn around it. And I'd be really keen to if you bear with me and we just try this methodology again. I'd just like to see what sort of response we can get from it. So. Once we finish this webinar, I'll quickly go online and I'll put up a post saying, hey, thanks very much for attending the webinar tonight. If you'd like a copy of our AOP template, then please just like it and put a thing in. So if you would just simply go to LinkedIn, find the post there that's related to me. We need to be first contact, so sign up with your contact. So find the post, like the post, and then just send me a message saying, hey, Russ, webinar was really good or something, and can I have a copy of the AOP? And I'll send you one. If you do that for me, that would be really, really good. Okay. So that's how to get a copy of the webinar. So the AOP. Of course, we will send you out a recording and a link to all these slides. I'll make sure there's a link in there to the 90-day planning templates as well. So we'll get access to all that stuff eventually. We'll put that up. It'll probably be up in a week or so, but we'll send you it all on email once it's posted and we're ready to go. Okay, that's good. Our next webinar, haven't scheduled a topic yet, but the next webinar will be in about 6 weeks' time, and we'll send you out some reminders about that. So that's all from me. If you've got any questions, really happy to answer any questions. If you've got any comments or feedback, really happy to take those. Particularly if you've got any comments on things that we could do in future webinars, will be just great. All right. Thanks a lot, guys. Have a great night. Any questions, just throw them up. All right. Looks like there's no questions, so we'll log out. But thanks very much, guys. Really appreciate you logging in tonight, and I'll talk to you again soon. In the future. All right. Thank you.